Hey, it's Paul Banis with GreatDad.com, and I'm here with my weekly series talking to dads about modern fatherhood, and I've got a dad on the line today, Bijoy John. Welcome, Bijoy.
Thanks, Paul. It's great being on show. Let's learn about sleep and how to sleep better, especially for dads and parents. Sleep is the superpower.
Yeah, we're not talking actually about fatherhood today, though. You've got two grown kids as well, but we're
Yeah.
talking about sleep. You're a sleep expert. You're a board certified physician. You've been working in the sleep category for, you said, 25 years, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah, and you're the founder of the Sleep Center of Greater Pittsburgh. You've got lots of credentials, all involved with sleep, and we'll talk about some of your recent projects. But I'm excited to get into this because I think we hear so much about it. I don't want to spend a lot of time, as I said, on why sleep is so important. I think maybe 50 years ago, people didn't realize the importance of sleep. They felt sleepy and they were tired, but they didn't know how it affects heart health and all kinds of other functions. But I think people still wrestle with how to get the sleep they need. So maybe first of all, let's talk about the fact that does everybody need the 8 to 9 hours or the 7 to 9 hours we talk about, or are there really super sleepers who only need 5?
Correct. Great question. To answer the question is very easy. If you wake up in the morning and you feel great and you only slept 5 hours, you are a short sleeper. That's actually very rare, people. You know the previous presidents and Elon Musk, but Elon Musk thought everybody is the same. So he forced all his employees to be like him. Then he realized, hey man, I am unique. I don't need much sleep. So he recently went on TV everywhere. Hey, sleep is everybody sleep more. So he knows. That's a very easy coincidence. But most of us need about 7 to 8 hours to go through all the cycles and stages. So that's the answer there.
And is it cumulative? I mean, if I slept last night, I got 6 hours and I need another hour. If I take an hour long nap after lunch, does that 7 plus 1 equal the eight, the 8 I need? Or
Let's imagine you don't sleep 1 hour a night, right? If you add up a week, there's your 7 hours. So you didn't sleep a whole
right,
night. So it
right.
is cumulative. So the nap, most of the time, a little nap, 20 minutes is normal around 2:30. But if you're sleeping more than that, is also a sign that you have a sleep debt. So
Yeah. Well, I like that power napping thing. I try to do 20, 25 minutes, and I set an alarm clock for 25 minutes. I start with a mini meditation, fall asleep, and then I nap for 25 minutes. So you're saying that's a good power nap for you.
yeah, so the power, there's a reason, my mom taught me to nap. So when I get a chance in the afternoon, your circadian rhythm gets low
Sure.
and you just a great time to nap. But like I mentioned, should be about 20 minutes. Actually your brain volume increase during nap is very healthy. But if you're sleeping 2 hours, 3 hours a nap, that means you have a sleep debt or another problem. So there lies the little clue there.
Yeah, I think that some people get worried that if they take that nap, then they're not going to be able to fall asleep a little bit later on. So in that context, there are people who can't fall asleep. Luckily I'm not one of those. But then there are people who have insomnia during the night. They wake up, they can't go back to sleep, or they sleep fitfully, and they don't ever feel like they really got a good night's sleep. Can you give us an idea of what percentage of people fall into one of those three categories?
So the two main complaints to my office: insomnia, they can't sleep, they can initiate or maintain, or sleep apnea. So if you belong to the insomnia category, I recommend no naps because you're keeping the sleep pressure, right? I'm talking naps for regular people who are healthy. But if you are suffering from insomnia, I strictly forbid them from because you want to keep the sleep pressure for the nighttime, right? So to the answer question, 30 to 40% of people, adults in the United States, suffer from insomnia. I think it's actually more. I think it's probably about 80% is what I'm thinking, but all the data shows about 30, 35%.
And you define insomnia as any of those three categories, some disturbance of sleep.
Correct. Either initiating or maintaining, and then you feel groggy, because see, we thought insomnia is just a nighttime phenomenon, but the effects of it last through the entire day. You're in a bad mood, you're not a good employee, you're fighting, you don't make
Yeah.
good decisions. So it affects 24 hours.
Yeah, well, it affects fatherhood clearly. If you're not at your best, you're yelling at your kids. That's like not a good thing. Say nothing to potentially losing your job.
Yes, I tell people when there's a problem, we always say, let's sleep on it, right? We never say, let's exercise on it or eat on it, right? So sleep is the biggest healer. We heal in our sleep and, so many benefits from sleeping better.
Yeah. So in those three areas. I mean, it's clear if you lie down and you can't go to sleep, you want to sleep at 11 and you can't fall asleep till
Yes.
midnight, you've lost an hour of potential sleep there. But I know
Yeah.
sometimes they say that if you wake up and you are lying there and you think the clock is ticking, you may be getting a little bit of sleep in there while you think you're
Micro
awake.
sleep, yes.
Yeah. And is that valuable, or is that not quite the same as really fully getting into REM sleep?
Yeah, so that's a two-part answer. So if you go to bed around 10 and you're not falling to sleep till midnight, guess what most people are doing? They actually try to go to bed earlier, right? They go to bed at 9. Now you're struggling 3 hours. So I tell you, it's a simple thing. I tell people, hey, go to bed the time you fell asleep, don't struggle, right? So even if you go to bed around midnight, so you still have to wake up at 6. So another thing happens in people who wake up in the middle of the night, they look at a clock, their time, my God, it's only 3 o'clock. Oh, it is 3 o'clock. So the cognitive behavior, process happen. So to answer your question, sleep is an ancient art. We live in this hustle culture, hustle, hustle. But the hustle culture has met its match in sleep. You can't hustle, you can't data mine your way. Sleep is an art. You have to work at it. So here we go. We want sleep to be an on and off switch, but it's a dimmer. It's an art. That's why my 7 proven sleep strategies, we're going to talk in a minute. I've combined my experience. I also struggle with insomnia in different stages of my life. I put it all together so the world can, sleep and heal better.
So what do you think of the idea of what they used to say that our sleep patterns were usually a period of sleep and then a period of wakefulness and then going back to sleep? I know that's been documented like in the Middle Ages, but that's
Yes.
probably the way man slept up until the industrial age when we had clocks and everybody knew they had to be somewhere at 9 and, then they needed that time period. Is that kind of sleeping? I mean, if we were all left to our own devices and could just sleep when we wanted to, is that kind of sleep okay? 4 hours followed by 3 hours of hanging around and then another 4 hours?
Yes, that's called biphasic sleep. That was the norm until,
Right.
like you mentioned, the light came in and then everything. So in an ideal world, that's all we need. Sleep, wake up when the sun rises, then again go back to sleep. So, but today we call it irregular sleep wake cycle.
Right.
But that was called biphasic sleep then. But we live in the modern time where everything revolves around, schedules and time.
Right. So we don't know whether that would be healthier for us to go back to that kind of sleep. I would imagine if that's evolutionarily the way we were created.
Yeah, but if you look at when you're retired, you don't have any, but people don't follow that. You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
No,
As short sleepers. So to answer the question, when you're middle age or a young person, that even if you go back, primitive, that may be norm, but as you grow older, it changes. So you have to adjust with time because your brain's shrinking and it's not making the chemicals. Every decade, past 50, in fact, sleep is good till age 20. After that it gets worse because of responsibilities, job, raising children. And then by 50 the drop in hormones, estrogen, testosterone. And by 70 we are done. Your sleep is really terrible from 70 on.
thank you for bringing that positive outlook.
No, but we can work at it, if you do it right. Yeah.
So my wife and my daughter just were in Korea. They just got back yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And so my daughter, I guess she slept for 4 hours yesterday afternoon, and then she kind of slept fitfully during the evening. She came to me this morning, had breakfast, and she said, "Well, what should I do now? Now I'm feeling tired. Should I go back and sleep if I want to?" And my answer to her, and I'd love your impression. I said, if you don't have anything to do, you could just kind of drag out your jet lag, accommodation over several days. But if you have to go to work, obviously you should stay up as late as you can and try to get back into the routine. If everybody was like free to do what they wanted, would that be the best way to get over jet lag? Is just try to eat normally at regular hours, be affected by the sunlight, and
No,
kind of
I
get
just
into it?
came from a long trip myself, and everybody in my family did it great. So the preparation for jet lag happens before when you're flying or day before that. So let's say in your flight is 8, 10 hours, try not to sleep in that journey, right? When you're back. See, the eastward travel is very worse compared to the westward travel because we gain time. So to the answer question, you want to resolve jet lag after you come back. Because you don't want to be the norm, because somewhere along the line it's going to catch up. See, our body, the SCN or suprachiasmatic nucleus, will only adjust 1 hour in 24 hours. So if you are 8 hours, you'll take 8 days to make it better. So the key advice is don't sleep on the plane if you're coming back.
Oh, really?
Just go with the program, and if it is daytime here, just start the day as much as you can and get your sunlight. And then don't take a nap. But if you're extraordinarily tired, you have to. And then this is the only place where I use melatonin. Even I do a couple of nights of melatonin just to regulate my clock. That's the only time I use melatonin.
Yeah, so maybe we should talk about the whole drug thing. I know some doctors for older people recommend melatonin every day. So, but you would say only during jet lag situations?
Yeah, or if you have a clock problem. So when you're older, people tend to sleep earlier,
Right.
and teenagers tend to, because of the hormones, they tend to get to some bed later. And, yeah, older adults tend to go, sleep earlier. So this is called, older adults called advanced sleep phase syndrome, and the younger children, it's called delayed sleep phase syndrome. Most of it is behavioral based. So it's okay to use melatonin, compared to all the other medications. So there's a clock problem, or a jet lag, that's the only time I use. I don't use, melatonin to go to sleep. Remember, melatonin does not put you to sleep. It just changes the time when you go to sleep. You with me?
How do you mean that? It changes the time.
So melatonin takes about 3 or 4 hours to sleep. I mean, to get into the system. So let's say you traveled from Korea, your body core temperature is different. So your melatonin secretes just before the core body temperature drops. So it's going to take a while for it to, because your body is there. So now when you take melatonin, you can shift that clock by 4 hours. So it's not a hypnotic, I take it, I'm going to go to sleep. No, it just kind of correlates with your body's secretion of melatonin.
And how about Ambien? Because I know a lot of people take that. For a while, there were doctors who were suggesting those mini doses of Ambien. Take them. You wake up in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, or not a lot later, and take half a dose of Ambien or a quarter
Yeah.
dose of Ambien. I think the research now is there's a link between that and dementia or Alzheimer's. Is that true?
Correct. So any medication that you put in your body, just like alcohol, we develop tolerance. Like if you drink a glass of wine today, you don't feel that, tipsy or buzz. You need 2 or 3 or 4. So same thing with medications too, especially those kind of medications that work on your receptors, the Z receptors, they call it, or the GABA, to help you to sleep. So it becomes tolerant and you need more of it. So that is exactly right. I take most of the patients off it because you can make your own. And if you go through the program that I teach, you can easily come up all the medication. So the question about medication, if you cannot absolutely sleep, your negative effects are going to be worse than taking a medication. So, I do prescribe medication, but that's a question I have to ask myself. Some people just can't sleep. That's only like 5 to 10%. So the easy answer will be to give a pill, but then you develop tolerance, and then you become dependent. So let's avoid all that because your body has all that. Why would you want to put something from the outside?
Yeah, that's the only time I take Ambien now is when when I have significant jet lag, and I'll
Yes.
break the tablet in two, put it next to my bedside. If I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll take it. But if I don't use it, but I only do it a maximum of 3 days.
Yeah, that's it. And the recommendation is not use sleeping pills more than 6 weeks, maximum to
Oh,
six
yeah.
months. So every
Yeah.
time you have to evaluate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, well, let's get into your 7 sleep strategies, which are also, if people are driving and they don't have time to write this down, you can find them on it. You got a great YouTube on, which is another, I think, another podcast of these seven
Yes.
sleep strategies that's on your website, sleepfixacademy.com. But let's go through those 7 sleep strategies. I'm sure I'll have questions along the way.
Yeah, the easy way to remember is the sleep now, SLEEPNOW. My subtitle of my book is the 7 proven sleep strategies. So, my children are like that. Dad, you have to give an acronym for people. So that's why I formed the acronym. Everybody can remember that. But before that, when somebody comes with a problem to sleep, sleep, the lack thereof, is a tip of the iceberg. So first I look at somebody, do they have a medical problem, heart problem, lung problem, diabetes problem, then do they have a psychological problem, anxiety, depression? So I address all that, or they could even have a sleep disorder, like, restless leg, which is easily treatable, limb
It's
disorder.
easily treatable now? They say it's, oh, what? That's news flash.
Which one
Restless
is
leg
that?
is easily treatable now?
Oh, the easiest thing to do is it's iron deficiency.
Oh, wow. Because I
So
thought that was
the
still a question mark.
no, so the enzyme
Okay.
that controls the movement, dopa decarboxylase, I'm getting all technical here, is iron dependent, right?
Okay.
So I tell people to check ferritin levels. So that's called the baby iron. You need more baby iron. So the easiest thing, you see, that the name of the restless leg is the older disorder known to man that your doctor doesn't know. So it's been there for a long time. So the number one cause is iron deficiency. Others are B12 and folate deficiency. So you could have restless legs. And if that continues on to the night, it's called limb movement disorder. And then the big dreaded one, sleep apnea. So I go through medical problems, psychological problems, or sleep problems. So then I rule all that out because we have to work all that together because the problems with sleep is just the tip of something, all this disorder. So once I rule all that out, here we are, you just can't sleep. And then here's the acronym, right? So let's go.
Well,
The
can I just interrupt you once about the sleep apnea? Because I know a lot of people are probably wondering about that because that is it's often probably misdiagnosed by people or ignored.
It's ignored. Mainly it's
Yeah,
ignored.
if you don't do a sleep test, you're not going to know whether you really have sleep apnea or whether you might have some other like allergies or something else that's interfering with your breathing, right?
Correct. So there's the three telltale signs of sleep apnea. Number one, you snore. Number two, you stop breathing, right? If your spouse says, hey, you're stopping breathing, you're struggling to breathe. And number three, you're tired the next day. So once you have three, you're almost 99% sure you have sleep apnea. And then the test just confirms it. So, but people are reluctant because they're reluctant to go to the strange place. Now, I only do home sleep studies. 95% of all my studies are at home. So you can get that answer very quickly. So if you snore, there's a blockage. You are a very strong chance you have sleep apnea.
So, well, maybe I'm going to ask you to diagnose me now. But I have those three symptoms quite often. In
Yes.
fact, I wake up sometimes with a dream that I can't breathe.
Yes.
But my wife says I don't. She's never seen me not stop breathing, and I've done 2 sleep apnea tests that shows no sleep apnea. So I kind of going along here.
No, did you have a home sleep study or
I've
did
done the
you?
home sleep study and the one in the
How
facility
long ago was that?
a year ago. Yeah.
Oh, a year ago. So, men after 50, the testosterone drops, and women also, around 45, 55, they also go through menopause. The estrogen gets, keeps everything in good stead. Then when the lack of estrogen drops, the tone of the muscles. So women are also at risk. And men snore louder because the larynx is bigger. It's like a trumpet. The air goes through a narrow passage and the trumpet amplifies the larynx. Women's the larynx is smaller, and so that's why they don't snore much. But it's very important they get diagnosed. So to answer the question, do you have sleep apnea? If you're snoring, if you're not tired, are you tired?
No.
Okay,
No.
so you might have a condition called upper airway resistant syndrome, where there you have a resistance but no apnea, right? So that's the spectrum. Just like any spectrum, you may be in the spectrum, but if you gain another 5, 10 pounds, you will fall into the spectrum. So you might have the condition called upper airway resistance syndrome, where it is snoring but no apneas.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get into your sleep now acronym.
All right. The first is the S. It's called a schedule. So for every plan to succeed, you need to have a schedule. So I recommend people to sleep between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Like I mentioned earlier in our talk, if you can't sleep, if you go to bed at 10 and you don't fall asleep till 11:30, no point laying there and struggling. Go to bed at 11:30, but make sure you wake up at 6 a.m. So this is called building a sleep pressure or a sleep debt. So this is the hardest thing when I tell people. This is called sleep restriction. It works. The first 2 weeks are very difficult. I also have a downloadable, journal which people literally fill and they can see the difference. And the journal also tells me when they use, alcohol, caffeine, medication, so they can have a rough. So sleep schedule is very important, right? Number two is the L is low light, low noise, low temperature. the melatonin is only secreted in darkness and lower temperature. Mela means darkness, right?
Right.
So make sure your bedroom is darkened, and there's no much, and it is dark and there's not much noise and the temperature is lower, right? So here we go. Leading right into the next E is no to electronics. This is a big problem that we all have,
Okay.
the electronics. So especially after COVID, what happened is we started working from home, and then the home became into your bedroom, and you open all our devices. The light's telling, it goes right through the tract from the eye to the brain. Say, hey, it's still daytime. There's no need to sleep. Melatonin, like I mentioned, is a darkness hormone. It doesn't get secreted when there's light. So, and also, especially in the bedroom, there's no ambient light. So the screen light is actually much, much powerful. So I tell people not to have your electronics at least hour ideally, but practically 30 minutes prior, and also keep it away. The first sign of cell phone addiction, Paul, is if in the morning when you wake up and that's the first thing you're doing, that's an addiction. So if you keep it away, because in the night we all tend to wake up because we go through different cycles and stages. Then if the phone is next, you see the notification, the likes, text messages, and then the light and the clock. And also make sure there's no many clock in your bedroom because you don't want the awareness of time. You
Okay.
want, yeah, because once you know the time, it works on your mind. I slept only 3 hours. I got to wake
Okay.
up.
That's
So
good.
click. So I don't have any clock in my bedroom. I set my alarm. I keep my phone at least 6 feet away in my bathroom. So I literally have to wake up. I'm done sleeping. I don't snooze. So if it's 6 today or 5:30 today, I have to set the alarm and be prepared, the night before. So we went through SLE. The next E is exercise. Exercise is good for us, but exercise, creates heat in our body, and heat's not good for melatonin, and also it secretes cortisol and you hyper. So if you have a chance to exercise, make sure you exercise in the morning or at least 4 hours prior to going to
Okay.
bed.
That's good.
So that's the because of the heat that we make. So then the P is the big thing: power off your mind. So the only way you can power off your mind is if you're given a chance for your mind. So your body is resting, you're not worked up, you don't have your phone, so you have to go through the steps. So here I teach two unique techniques which not many people talk about. One is called vivid imagination. Then, I'm a big fan of it. So when I lay in bed, I'm not thinking about reality. I think about the abstract. I'm the director of my show. I've been doing this for 30, 35 years in my own life. So when I lay down, I'm thinking of nothing. I'm thinking of something totally abstract. So that has helped me. And then I also tell people to practice yoga nidra, Nidra, which is, you practice like a corpse pose. You lay on your back with your palms up, and nidra means nothingness. You don't think about nothing. But remember, you can only do this by doing the other. So that's the two technique. That's how you power off your mind. And then the next is no to worries. I do NO. So I tell people to worry between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. I was getting ready for your show. I was making sure I got the Zoom link. I went and, so I prepared and I said, what am I going to talk about? So that's what I did. So I tell people to worry between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. So you're getting prepared from 8 p.m. on to bed. Remember in the beginning of the show I mentioned hustle culture. We hustle all day long. But
Sure.
sleep, you have to take it easy. All right. Then we come to the last one. It's called W, win by losing. This is one we can't win. We want to win and everything. We want all the data. People look at all the devices, gadgets. So keep your routine simple and lose yourself into sleep. I tell including myself, I'm entering the bedroom. That's like the entry to the door is like a TSA screening machine. If I have my phone, beep. If I have my worries, beep. If I'm wearing tight clothes, all this stuff,
Right.
making, excess jewelry, making noise, beep. So that's your mark. You have to leave it all out. And then bed is only for, sleeping and sex. Most people are snoring or
Right.
worrying. So that's what it is. Keep it simple. So SLEP, schedule, low light, low noise, low temperature, no to electronics, exercise 4 hours prior, power off your mind, no to worries, and win by losing. So that's my 7 proven strategies. And I suffered from insomnia, like med school, we were high, on caffeine, and then didn't, all-nighters. But I always felt if I slept better, I performed well. in the exam. So I found a way to overcome that. And then when my mom died, I was in grief. I couldn't. So I found way there. And also, as a small business owner, all these things, somebody left a bad review yesterday. I don't even know who did it. And so all those things. So, but I'm not going to take you to my bed. I said, and I'm going to call that company to, because we have an excellent record. So all these things I overcame 25 years, I'm able to do it. We go through different stages of our lives and we fall, but we get back if you follow these strategies.
So do you do marriage counseling for if your partner doesn't agree with you on those strategies? I think that,
That's a great question. There's something called sleep divorce now. So people are sleeping separately. I'm trying to bring people together. There's also movement for couples to sleep separately. That's everybody has their separate lives, but it affects the marriage and the security and the safety if you are sleeping together. So I tell people by resolving the sleep problems, you can prevent the sleep divorce. So usually men have more snoring and sleep apnea, women have more insomnia. So I counsel most of them at the same time.
well, I'm married to a power sleeper who doesn't need a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
That's a good thing and a bad thing. She sleeps so soundly that she'll sleep through almost everything, including my snoring. But it also means that she's happy to, stay up until 2 in the morning reading or doing anything else because she knows she can get 5 or 6 hours and be,
Short
she'll be
sleeper,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
So nowadays, being part of marriage counseling, you people look at what chronotype you are. Are you a night owl or a lark? Because otherwise you will be ships crossing across. So you want to see your own type. Those things are important in marriage.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have nixed the marriage based on what I know about our sleep habits, but it is a difference that I can imagine has a
Yeah,
huge effect on a lot of people's relationships because it's not negotiable for
right.
some people. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, good.
Awesome.
Let's see. I thought I had one more question about snoring.
Yes.
Anything that you can tell us about snoring, whether it's worth trying to get that fixed or if it's something that you think that bothers you in your sleep or bothers your partner?
Yeah, snoring is a sign of obstruction. So imagine water going through a pipe, and then if you're narrowing the pipe, the gush of water is the turbulence, right? Same thing with air. So what happens? The tongue is a major problem when you lay down, especially on your back, the tongue falls down and blocks the airway. So that's why most of the time, if you sleep on your back, you get the elbow from your spouse. That's when you roll over. So if you the 90% chance of snoring happens because of the tongue. The other thing is deviated nasal septum or polyps. So by not sleeping on your back, you avoid snoring. And there are devices which gives you a little bit of shock when you go on your back. Or you can put a tennis ball on your nightgown, on your t-shirt on the back, and then you roll over. This has been practiced for a long time. I prescribe this all the time. Just like somebody who has the upper airway resistance syndrome, like I told you, they can sleep on the side. And also the position of the neck. Sometimes you can some people close their neck and they're snoring all the time. So snoring is like infection and fever. So fever is a sign of an infection, right? So you want to take care of the infection so you don't, so you don't get bad. So if you are snoring, make sure you don't have sleep apnea. So that's the most important thing. In children, it's the tonsils that's causing the blockage. So in children, it's permanent cure. You clip the tonsil and the adenoid. Both my children had sleep apnea, and both of them had those surgeries and they're 100% cure. But adults is a little bit complicated. Our back throat is very complicated. That's a surgical intervention has not been very successful in the back of the throat.
You don't recommend surgery because you see these sleep places or snoring places popping up where they tell you they're going to get rid of your snoring by just a
Yeah.
couple snips.
Yeah, if you are sleep apnea ruled out by an in-lab study, then I might recommend to chip a little bit of the palate and the soft tissue to reduce the vibration. That's the only time I recommend doing that procedure.
Is that a dangerous surgery? Is it a thing where
Uh,
the danger is worth the cure?
No, there's different types of surgeries. In the past, they took a lot of it. What happened? The palate closes when you swallow. So what happens when you don't have that uvula, the punching deal bag, and the roof of the mouth, things can come through your nose. And it's a very sensitive area. There's a lot of pain, but there are like newer techniques with less surgery. Microsurgeries are available to do that.
Okay. And deviated septum, though, that's not something anybody wants to get involved with unless you have to, because that's
Yeah, the deviated
complications from
septums. Yeah, deviated septums can block your nose and also, affects the appearance and also the polyps. They can, shave off some of the or the turbinates. So if you have a deviated nasal septum and you snore, especially if you think the blockage is right down there, that's a good option to have surgery there.
Oh, it is. I was thinking I've always heard that it's a very complicated structure and that messing around with it could be
No,
problems.
no, surgery has come a long way. They're excellent surgeons. They'll
Okay.
just it out. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm living with paradigms that are 20 or 30 years old. So if you've tried a lot of these things, I think a lot of people get frustrated because they've heard some variations on what you've talked about, and they've
Mm.
tried to like eliminate alcohol or really get into a schedule or not, or turn off the electronics an hour beforehand and a lot of these things, and they haven't had good luck. I mean, I guess I'm pointing at myself, but I think this is true for a lot of people because I hear this frustration, like it's just not working for me. I think in your program, you kind of make a guarantee that you'll fix. You'll,
Yes, but because I make sure people have the other problems. Remember, you could be sometimes, you could have bad anxiety or depression, that could be there, and there's something called, anxiety and depression and sleep have a bidirectional relationship. If you're not sleeping well, you have more symptoms of anxiety, and if you're anxious, you don't sleep well. So it just goes in circles. So you may be having that. Or sometimes people have medical problems like heart problem, lung problem, or even a thyroid problem, which can affect your, sleep. So you want to rule medical problems before you blame it all. And of course, alcohol, people, alcohol is the worst substance to go to sleep because it numbs your brain. It doesn't make the chemicals, then you don't, then you get used to it. And then alcohol acts as a diuretic. And you wake up to use the restroom at night. Alcohol metabolizes into acetaldehyde, then you wake up. So many things you have to look, then 90% of the reasons we can eliminate. And then if you come up with insomnia, 90% we can eliminate. Probably is 10% need to go through the steps I told you, go through the program.
and one other question related to that, because it's so big here in California. I don't know
Yeah.
if marijuana is legal now in Pennsylvania, but there are so many promises that you see on billboards and everything guaranteeing you sleep through the use of CBD, not the THC, the tropic part, but the CBD. Are you seeing promising results from CBD as a sleep?
CBD and THC, they affect REM sleep. It takes the anxiety to help sleep, but it does not improve the quality of
Okay.
sleep. It actually affects the REM sleep, and it's not it does not improve sleep quality, but it takes for sure the anxiety. People are all anxious about sleep. So that's how, THC, works by relieving the anxiety, not helping you to sleep. It actually does not help you to sleep.
Oh, so it's actually the THC that would be beneficial in that case rather than the CBD, but they try to present the CBD as like the druggy type thing, but more of a sleep.
Correct. Yes, it takes the anxiety. That's the most important part of this thing. That's how it works.
Wow.
It doesn't have a positive effect on the quality of sleep.
Yeah. Well, it's just fascinating how all these things are interrelated. I mean, a generation ago, we kind of thought these were all kind of separate categories, but so much of what you're talking about plays on itself. So you do one-on-one consulting, obviously, in your practice, in your sleep center, but you also have, well, you've got a book, Nobody's Sleeping. Nobody's Sleeping, does that go over these 7 strategies more in depth or talk?
Yes, it's there. That's, just that title came to me when I woke up after a deep sleep. I really believe we are all walking with a sleep debt. So hence the title.
America?
And I do mention the 7 strategies. I don't have the acronym, I formed the acronym later, but I do have that 7 strategies. That's the subtitle of my book.
Right.
That's the last chapter because I go through all the other problems that you might have which prevent you from sleeping, and in the end you still have the problem. Then install or instill those strategies.
Okay. So people can reach you at Sleep Fix Academy, and then you also have an online course.
Correct. It's a
Or
self-directed course where I have like 14 videos, literally getting into the nitty-gritty, helping you walk through it, how to fill the form, see the difference and sleep assessment. And I help you through different stages. And it's a self, people can complete at their own pace. It's a 6 weeks course, but sometimes people have done it in 4 weeks. But it's self-directing. You can do all that by yourself.
Okay, great. Well, Bijoy John, this has been an interesting conversation. You've answered a lot of the questions that I had personally on my mind. I saved myself another trip to the sleep specialist. But and I think it's really important what you're saying, because I can hear versus some of the other specialists I've talked to that you're constantly studying this field to see what's new and changing versus the ideas we even had 5 years ago. And it sounds like this is like a rapidly developing
Yes.
study.
And so somewhere along the line, there's a lot of misinformation. You know, the
Right.
number one search topic in today on Google is sleep, insomnia, and sleep apnea. You know, would you believe it? There's a lot of searches, but there's a lot of bad information. See, for example, everybody is afraid of home, going to the lab. Everybody has escape of the big mask. You know, I have sleep apnea myself. I keep a little device on my tongue which strengthens my tongue. So there's so many options, and you get into information and do the wrong thing. And so that's what's happening in today's world. Of course, to get the part of it is we have to get in front, and that's my mission, to write this book and go on the show to listen and reach your viewers. We have to spread the message. There's no quick fix, unfortunately, on this part. But if you eliminate a lot of things by your own and then put new things in, you have the superpower. Sleep. Once you discover this one, you would want more of it.
Right.
And so, but we know how to get it, right? So that's my goal, to teach sleep to everyone.
Well, a fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, I'm Paul Baines with GreatDad.com. I actually work with people too on quieting some of those voices in your head, which is one part of the sleep thing. If you want to contact me about the program that I do, you can do that at paul@greatdad.com or go to greatdad.com/go to set up an appointment with me.
All
So
right.
again, thanks again, Bijoy. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Paul. Sleep well and be well.
Thank you.